Hi guys, Totallydubbed here, and today I'm doing a video comparison between robot vacuum cleaners, corded or upright vacuum cleaners, and cordless vacuum cleaners. Now in this comparison I've chosen ones which I think are kind of best in class. So on the left over here we've got the Neato D7, which can be found between £400 in the UK to $600 in the US. Then we've got the Dyson Lightball Multi-Floor, which can be found for £200 in the UK and $300 in the US. Then we've got the Dyson V11 cordless vacuum cleaner over here on the right, and that can be found for £550 or around $600 in the US. Now, if you're interested in any of these that I talk about, they'll be linked in the description below. The locally link will take you to your localized Amazon store, so if you don't live in the UK or US, you might be still able to buy any of these three. So let's get into this comparison. So first off, what I did is created a table, and this is a comparison table of all the vacuum cleaners. Now, it's worth bearing in mind that if you were to choose, let's say, a budget cordless vacuum cleaner and then compare it with a class-leading robot vacuum cleaner, this table, shall I say, is not going to be accurate to what products you might be looking at. But as I wanted to make it a fair comparison, I really want to look at kind of like the best in class of all of them and kind of give it a kind of level playing field, because in my opinion these three vacuum cleaners are the best that you can buy in their respective categories. With that out of the way, let's go into it. So first off, I want to talk about the maintenance and longevity of these products, which is something that's obviously very much of a concern for a lot of people, because when you buy a vacuum cleaner, you don't want to be replacing it every year. Let's say, you know, you're not on a contract with your phone, for example. Now, in this respect, what I found is that the upright vacuum cleaner, in this case the corded Dyson, is the one that's going to really, well, feels that it's going to last the longest. Now, why is that? Well, purely because it has less sort of digital technology that's built into it. It's purely a vacuum cleaner. In this respect, the Dyson V11 has some smart technology, which funnily enough actually did break on me. So for example, it's got a little timer, and then I had to go on to warranty, and this is within a year, and I had to get the Dyson V11 replaced. So I had to disassemble it all together and then reassemble it afterwards. And it feels a little bit flimsy, which is not something I would kind of expect from a very expensive vacuum cleaner. Then you got the Neato D7, which is a robot vacuum cleaner. Now in this respect, obviously it's using technology, and of course technology is going to get outdated after a certain amount of time. So here the technology might move on, and when it does move on, this Neato D7 might be a little bit redundant. It's not to say it's pointless now, it's actually incredibly good. As I said, it's best in its class, one of the best robot vacuum cleaners I've ever tested. But in this respect, when I'm talking about longevity and even in terms of maintenance, it is ultimately a small little robot, and that small little robot can't be chucked around or kind of abused, and same goes with the Dyson V11. Whilst the Lightball Multi-Floor is a pretty chunky, hefty device, which, to be honest, no matter what you did to it, well, pretty much what you did to it, it would still survive and still do its core functionality, in other words, clean. Now next up comes practicality. Now having a cord is great because you can run for an unlimited amount of time. However, the problem with the cord is that you have to worry about a cord. So you can't just pick up something and start cleaning, or set something to clean, let's say the robot vacuum cleaner. In this respect, the upright vacuum cleaner is the less practical, at least in my opinion. For me, what I found the most practical was the cordless V11. Now, why is that? Because you might be thinking, well, the robot vacuum cleaner is extremely practical. All I have to do is press a button. Well, you can't clean your ceiling. You can't clean the top of your wardrobe, for example. And that might sound trivial, but if you want to do a deep clean of your house or flat or anywhere that you live, then something like the cordless V11 is the most practical out of the three vacuum cleaners. So next up, we've got the size, the convenience, and the weight. Now here it might be a no-brainer, but the Neato D7 robot vacuum cleaner is by far the most convenient and just easiest to use. Why is that? Well, all you have to do is press a button on an app and it cleans your house or your flat for you. Now granted, if you have a multi-layer apartment or flat or house, then you will need to carry this up the stairs or down the stairs and place it down into a new base, for example, for it to do its cleaning. Whereas with the Dyson V11, you can just take it with you. But that has an added weight. And of course, in comparison to the corded Dyson, it's far, far lighter. So in other words, the Dyson corded one is very heavy and not very practical, and you have to go ahead and untangle the cable and plug it in and then start cleaning. The Dyson V11 is a lot more practical in comparison to the corded variant, because you can just pick up and go and start cleaning as soon as you pick up, whilst the Neato D7, and you can just press it to clean even when you're out the house, which means that it's extremely convenient and by far the most easiest one to use out of the three. Now next up is the bin size / the capacity, how much dust can these vacuum cleaners actually take. And here it's pretty much obvious given their size, but the upright Dyson corded vacuum cleaner does take this category with ease. It has 1.6 litres of capacity, whilst the others, let's say the cordless Dyson V11 or the Neato D7, have around 0.7 litres. In other words, you're going to have to empty out that bin more frequently versus the corded vacuum cleaner. So why would this ever matter? Well, quite frankly, you can clean for longer without having to stop cleaning and empty out the bin. This might seem trivial, but this might save a little bit of time, and therefore when you're going ahead and cleaning your entire house or your flat, then you'll have to do less trips to the bin and therefore have to empty out the actual vacuum cleaner more often. Now, very much on this sort of subject of running for a longer time comes the battery life and kind of the run time. It's going to be obvious, isn't it, that the upright vacuum cleaner here again is going to take this category because it can run for an indefinite amount of time. Of course, as long as you're paying your electricity bills, it can keep on going because it has that corded plug, which means that it has unlimited amount of power. Whilst the V11 and indeed the Neato D7 do run for a good amount of time, for up to let's say 1 hour or 2 hours of cleaning sometimes, they are still limited in terms of the amount of time they can clean. And it's also worth bearing in mind that these devices, let's say the Neato D7, takes around 2 to 3 hours to charge from 0 to full, whilst the Dyson V11 takes 4.5 hours to charge to full. Again, you must bear that in mind that if you have a dedicated day, like a spring cleaning day, then you might have to stagger it a little bit if you want to fully deep clean your house or flat or apartment with these cordless or robotic devices, whilst the corded Dyson will run forever. Now next up is cleaning performance. Now here it was quite hard because all of these are best in class vacuum cleaner, and to be quite honest with you, they all do a great job in, let's say, their highest performance modes. So the Dyson V11 in its boost mode is incredibly powerful, but it will only last around 6 to 7 minutes at that mode. The corded one does a fantastic job, specifically when it comes to carpet, and will last forever, but due to EU regulations is limited in terms of how much power it can actually have, and therefore even Dyson claimed that the V11 has a lot more suction power than the corded Dyson. Then we move on to the robot D7. Here, the Neato is actually incredibly good in its high performance mode. Even in its quieter eco mode, it's still very powerful in terms of picking up all the debris that you've got. Now, if I really had to pick a winner, it'd probably go, in my case, to the Dyson V11, because I feel that it's very nimble, very accurate in terms of how well it can judge in terms of the floor in its auto mode, and furthermore does a fantastic job in its boost mode if I really want that extra amount of power. Your mileage may vary, and if you've got an older school corded vacuum cleaner which is unlimited in terms of power, so like 1600 watts or 1700 watts, that type of one, then in those ones might be more powerful and therefore have the best sorts of cleaning performance. But again, in my comparison, it's pretty hard to tell in between them. Now then we've got the noise levels. Now this is a bit hard to compare because technically the Neato D7 by far is the best one. Why is that? Well, you can be out the house while it's doing the cleaning, and therefore you will never actually have to hear your house or flat ever being cleaned because the Neato D7 is doing it, be it in high performance or eco mode. If we're comparing them directly in terms of the all three vacuum cleaners and comparing them while we're being present, then it's somewhat hard to choose because all of them have got an eco mode or a low powered mode, or even in this case, for example, let's say the corded vacuum cleaner, the Dyson, can actually have its brush head completely disabled and therefore runs a little bit more quieter. So it's quite hard to pick between the three, but if I had to pick a winner, I'd probably go and side towards the Neato D7, purely because you don't actually have to be present while it's actually cleaning. And finally, we get onto technology, which is something that really does fascinate me personally. And it's somewhat weird, but technology is actually in vacuum cleaners and has become more and more prominent. In this case, by far the one that has the most amount of technology inside is the robot vacuum cleaner, the Neato D7. In this case, it's got LiDAR sensors and basically scans out your room. And personally, as someone who's quite interested in terms of seeing how it maps out a room, it's pretty cool to see that when it's done its cleaning, you've got a little map of your house or your flat. And to me, my inner geek comes out, and that's pretty cool. So I know this is not quite strictly in terms of knowing what's the difference between the three vacuum cleaners, but it is worth bearing in mind in terms of technology, and if you're somewhat of a geek, you might actually quite like the fact that the robot vacuum cleaners has loads of sensors and technologies built in order for it to do its job, which is ultimately clean your flat or your house. So what's my verdict? What's my take on these three very different vacuum cleaners? Well, quite simply, the way I'd like to think about it is that it's broken down into the three different types of people that might be using these vacuum cleaners, because there is no right answer for anyone. So in my case, I feel that if you are lazy or you want a kind of automated type of cleaning and you don't have to technically ever clean again, then a robot vacuum cleaner will be the best bet. That doesn't come without its cons. As I said, you can't clean the top of your wardrobe. It needs a little bit of TLC because sometimes it'll be stuck. You can't take it up, it can't go on its own up and down stairs, so you're going to have to take it up and down stairs if you have different floors. So it does come with its cons, but if you are someone who's ultimately the laziest type of person when it comes to cleaning, and ultimately you dislike cleaning, then a robot vacuum cleaner might be actually your best bet. In this case, the Neato D7 is an incredible vacuum cleaner. But then if you want something that's a little bit more practical and potentially can be running for a little bit longer or be a little bit easier to carry around, then the cordless vacuum cleaner, in this case the Dyson V11, is a fantastic option. Now, why is that? Well, quite simply, you can start cleaning as soon as you hit the trigger and it will start cleaning. You don't have to wait for an app, you don't have to wait for it to be plugged in, and of course you can take it in all different types of scenarios, from cleaning your keyboard to cleaning your car to cleaning the kitchen and your carpets. In this respect, the Dyson V11 is, in my opinion, the most practical, versatile vacuum cleaner. But the issue it has is very much like the Neato D7, is that it can't run forever. So therefore, if you do want to use it and you're going to use it a lot, then you might want to bear in mind that you're going to be limited in terms of the amount of time you can actually use it for before you having to recharge it. In this case, will take up to 4.5 hours. And then if you ultimately want to clean for as long as you want and you don't have to worry about battery life, which is very much the case with a lot of people out there, then a corded vacuum cleaner like the Dyson Multifloor, Light Bulb Multifloor, I keep getting confused with its name, but that one will be the best choice. Now, of course, it has its pros and cons, and its biggest con is the fact of its weight. It's a pretty heavy vacuum cleaner, and if you compare it to its cordless or, let's say, a robot vacuum cleaner, it's going to be a lot harder to carry around, take up and down some stairs, take it outside if you want to clean your car, or the fact that you have to just move it around and maneuver it around, it's going to be a lot harder. Now, of course, there are lighter corded vacuum cleaners out there, but ultimately they all have that same sort of design that ultimately you do need to carry around this vacuum cleaner, be it from the little canister ones to the one that's kind of like an all-in-one like the upright that I've got. So it is mainly for those people who want to run for unlimited amount of power, and biggest kind of point is the fact that it's going to be the cheapest out the bunch, which means that it's a lot more affordable and therefore a lot more accessible for a lot of people. So there we have it. That's been my unpaid, unbiased, independent comparison of the three different classes of vacuum cleaners. The reason I wanted to do this video is because when I was looking around on the internet, I couldn't really find that information. And I realized that some people might be in my shoes. and we're wondering to see what is best for them. So hopefully this video has given you an insight, and of course, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, these are the kind of what I would deem as the best in class, so it might not be applicable in all scenarios depending on the vacuum cleaners that you're looking for. But let me know in the comments below if you've got any questions, and of course do subscribe, like and favorite and share, as it'll always help the channel grow. Alright guys, I've been Totally Dubbed, take care and bye bye.